Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am Sabrina. I am currently a product manager at Cisco, and I make videos about design, life in tech, productivity, lifestyle. So if you're interested in any of those topics, please subscribe. Would love to have you as part of this community. Okay, so today's topic is a pretty interesting one, and it's a question that I get asked so many times by people who, reach out to me via LinkedIn or through YouTube, and that is, should I choose a bootcamp? And what bootcamp should I choose? Because there's just a million different options out there right now. So I'm hoping that this video helps you out if you're kind of in the process of deciding for yourself. And you got this. I was in the same shoes as you when I was making this decision last year, so hoping this will be helpful for you. So before I go into some of the things that you should be thinking about before making your decision, I just want to give a little bit of background about myself and kind of how I found my way through design. I went to school at UC Irvine. I graduated a few years ago, class of 2019. And right after I graduated, my first job was at Cisco. So I worked as a business analyst for about a year before I transitioned into a product management role, which is my current role now. And around the time of, when the pandemic happened and, lockdown happened around 2020 last year during March, I was really thinking about, where I wanted my career to go. I really enjoyed product. I really enjoyed building things, being creative, having a lot of autonomy and responsibility. And that's when I kind of came across design and UX research. I was working with a lot of designers on my team and UX researchers on different product teams within Cisco, and realized that this sounds like a dope career, honestly. And I was like, you can be really creative, you can talk to users, you're literally building interfaces and experiences for people. So my creative side and, the side of myself that is very, user-centric, wants to talk to people, wants to work with people, really thought this would be a great blend of all my strengths and skills. So I was like, hey, you know what? Let me just do some research, see what this design thing is all about, right? And that's kind of how I started my journey. And I ended up committing to a bootcamp, Designlab Bootcamp, which if you've seen previous videos, you already know that I've taken that bootcamp and UX Academy, which I'll go into a little bit later. But that was my journey, and that's kind of how I fell into it. But basically, this video is for those of you who are kind of in the deciding phases of your journey. Maybe you discovered UX and you're like, hey, this looks pretty cool, but I don't know, how do I get into this field? What should I do to prepare? You're maybe considering a couple of different options, clearly bootcamp being one of them, and you're trying to make a decision, right? And there are a couple things that I feel like everyone should be thinking about before they commit to something like a bootcamp. And I'm going to outline those things for you in this video. So I think the first most important thing is to identify what type of learner you are. Are you someone who needs structure, right? Or accountability? Do you need some sort of hand-holding or mentorship for you to make progress towards your goals? I am someone who is like that. I need some type of accountability. I need some sort of structure, because if I'm left to my own devices, it's really hard for me to kind of be on top of my game and get assignments done, especially because I have a full-time job. If this was something I was doing, after work hours and during the weekends, which is what I was doing, I really needed some sort of structure. I needed mentors to really help me. So I knew that about myself. So that's something that you should identify for yourself. A lot of people are self-learners, right? They're self-taught. They don't maybe need structure. They can, kind of just create a structure for themselves, find online resources, online tools, and just kind of learn by doing on their own. If you are that type of person, props to you. I have mad respect for that. I am just not that type of person. So I already knew that from the beginning. So that's something that I feel like everybody should identify, because, like, there's a lot of resources out there on the internet. You don't have to pay for a boot camp to necessarily learn how to be a UX designer or UX researcher. Like, that's the great thing about this. You can find all the tools for free. There's free tools like Figma, that's like a design tool that you can use to create these interfaces. There are a lot of articles, blogs, obviously YouTube videos, and even free courses that you can take that could really help you navigate, what you need to learn, what you need to do to build up a portfolio, right? And again, so if you're like me and you need a little bit more structure, then something like a boot camp, an online course, or even grad school, depending on what your goals are, can be a possible option for you. For me personally, when I was, thinking about transitioning and thinking about like, how do I learn more about this field, I knew that I needed structure, right? And I knew that, I needed to invest some sort of money to feel like I had a personal stake in this, and that like I need to get my shit done. But I didn't want to spend like 2 years in grad school, right? Like, grad school is pretty intensive. You need to take time off of work, and it's a lot of money. So I knew that I wanted to keep my full-time job. I wanted something that would be a supplement to that I could do like on my own time, after work, during the weekends. So that's something else to consider, right? Like, how much money are you willing to invest into this? How much time are you willing to invest in this? Because it's a lot of work, right? And you need to be prepared for that. So I think identifying the type of learning style that will be the most beneficial to you, where you can learn the most, is really, really important. Okay, so second thing is to do your research. I cannot stress this enough, that you need to really, really do your research before you commit to something, and just do your due diligence, right? When I was starting this whole process, I, went onto LinkedIn. I reached out to a bunch of designers, researchers, within my own company at Cisco and other companies, just to learn more about what they're doing in their day-to-day, right? So I can get an idea of like, is this something that I see myself doing, right, as a job? And not only that, but also when I was thinking about different options and bootcamp was a possibility, I reached out to a lot of bootcamp grads. From all sorts of boot camps, right? Because there's so many boot camps out there. So I literally stalk people on LinkedIn, try to find people who like graduated from different boot camps, just to crowdsource like pros and cons, like why did they choose this boot camp? Like what did they get out of it? Do they feel like, they were able to achieve whatever their goal was as a result of this boot camp? So that's super important, because, there's so many different options right now for boot camps and even, graduate school programs, right? So it's important to do your research, ask people who have done these things before, right? Because they have literally lived through these experiences. Get information from them, ask a lot of good questions, and then you can make a more informed decision about what's the right path for you. So if you do decide to go the bootcamp route, definitely check out sites like Course Report and Switch, which are great sites that basically compare and contrast like all these different bootcamp programs. And they have reviews from real students who have taken the bootcamp, and they kind of leave their review about how they felt like this experience was for them. So I would highly suggest to look at those resources as part of your research. Third thing is, think about what your objective is. Like, what is your end goal out of all this, right? Like, are you trying to fully transition into this field? Like, you are ready to fully make a career pivot. Your end goal is to build up your portfolio and get a job in this industry. Or maybe your end goal is that you just want to boost your skill set. You just want to add design and research as part of tools in your tool belt, so that you can be more competitive for all types of roles, not just design and research, even lateral roles like product management or product marketing, for example. It's important to understand what your objective and end goal is, because that will give you an idea of like how much time you really want to invest in this, and what are like your metrics for success, right? Because as part of boot camps, a lot of boot camps have like career services kind of attached to it, which is basically this whole phase where you're paired with a mentor and they really help you go through the application process and help you recruit for UX roles. So if your end goal is to find a job in this field and you need that extra support and help to go through interviews, bootcamp could be a great option for you. But if you are just trying to up level like your skill set and just learn, bootcamp could still be an option for you. But maybe you don't care so much about career services and you're just trying to boost your skill set and be more competitive overall for all kinds of roles. For me personally, when I first started the bootcamp, my objective was to just learn, because I was interested enough in this field and I felt like it would be beneficial for me regardless of whether I fully pivot or not, because I was, already in like doing some kind of product work. Like I was a product manager, and I felt like having design as something that I like formally really learned would really help me effectively communicate with designers and stakeholders, and be able to draft like quick mock-ups and prototypes. And so I definitely had this initial desire to like fully pivot into the field. And sometimes I still do. It's kind of like I go back and forth between like, do I really want to be a full-on designer or researcher, or am I okay with still being a product manager who is heavily like working on the UX UI side of things, right? And I think actually for me, the boot camp has been really helpful, because I actually recently switched roles within Cisco like about a month ago. And part of the thing that like my current manager like pointed out in my interview was that they really valued that I had UX experience, because they were looking for someone that was very user-centric, who was able to work with designers, who was able to quickly mock up and prototype things to show to our stakeholders. So they actually looked at my portfolio, they asked me about the boot camp. So I felt like, still taking this boot camp and like going through the course really helped me actually get my current role, because it showed that I was like really interested in this, that I actually worked on projects, that I learned a lot of tools that I actually use in my day job. Like I use Figma and like make prototypes and create mock-ups to talk with my stakeholders, to talk with our UX team and like communicate ideas. So for me, it was definitely helpful. So yeah, just think about that. What is your end goal, right? And it's okay if your end goal changes. That's also okay. You just need to be okay with the fact that it is a competitive job market right now. Like there is a huge barrier to entry for design roles. Like it's unfortunate, but there are not that many entry level, design roles, and I know in my previous video, I talked about applying for Facebook's Wrap program, and there's a lot of other programs out there now that are popping up that are geared towards junior designers and researchers, like Pinterest's apprenticeship program that they just came out with, and there's like a couple more that's popping up. So that makes me happy that there's more things, but I think it's really important to just have that expectation that it is pretty hard to break into this field and it might take you some time. So you got to really think about like your living situation, your finances, like are you in a position to, spend like at least 6 months to 12 months looking for a job in this field? Because for a lot of people, it takes at least that much time, if not longer. Okay, so those are my tips for you to kind of like figure out, when you're in this decision-making process, like whether or not you should even commit to a boot camp. So those are questions you should be asking yourself, thinking about, and take your time, right? Like do your research, like I said, because it is a huge decision, right? Like you don't want to make a hasty decision, and you don't want to put a lot of money, time, energy into something that you feel like is not going to serve your needs, serve your goals. Okay, so now I wanted to talk a little bit about my specific experience with Designlab UX Academy and why I actually ended up choosing Designlab over, all the other boot camps that are out there. So like I said, I started around, I think it was like June of 2020 is when I started like UX Academy. And basically Designlab has this 8-month boot camp, right? And it's called UX Academy. And what I loved about Designlab, and the reason why I actually ended up choosing Designlab over like General Assembly or like what else, like Springboard, there's like so many, I like can't even keep track of any of it. The good thing about Designlab is like they had the option to do a short course before committing to like a full term like boot camp. So they have like these short courses that are like 4 weeks long. And one of the courses that I took before I even went to UX Academy was a course called Design 101. Design 101, it was like a 4-week course that basically covered all the kind of like introductory fundamentals to like, you know, design thinking, some color theory, that kind of stuff. And it just allowed me to kind of dip my feet in to see if this is something that I wanted to commit to see if I would want to take a longer course to really like work on more longer term projects. And this was something that stood out for me that wasn't in any other bootcamp. Like only Designlab, at least to my knowledge, and let me know if I'm wrong, only Designlab had the option to do these short courses before committing to like a 7 to 8 month bootcamp, like full on bootcamp, right? And that felt a little less intimidating for me because I knew that, okay, I can take this 4-week course. If it doesn't work out, then I don't have to do the boot camp. But for all the other classes, I felt like, you know, there wasn't that option. And then the other thing is, the good thing about Designlab's Design 101 course is that if you take it, I think it's like $400 or something, but if you take it and then you decide to go to UX Academy, you'll get credited for whatever you paid for Design 101. So that $400 will be credited to you. And basically that's kind of like a prerequisite to go to UX Academy, right? So, you know, if it works out, then you can kind of move to UX Academy. But if it doesn't, then you don't have to move on. And it's like pretty low commitment from that point of view. And so if you are in that kind of situation where you're like, I don't know if a bootcamp is right for me, I don't want to make a huge commitment and like all like, you know, spend all this money when I'm not even sure. Look for bootcamp programs that have like a short course option that you can kind of test before you do something like a longer term bootcamp. I think the $1 million question a lot of people ask me is like, do you feel like you made the right decision? Like, do you regret like choosing a bootcamp? And honestly, I don't regret it. Even though I feel like I had hiccups throughout my journey and there were times where I couldn't like fully commit my time and energy to it and I definitely burnt out. I don't regret it because I feel like because of the timing of when I like chose to like do this whole thing, like 2020 being that time, I felt like it gave me something like new and exciting to learn. Like I feel like I'm just a very curious person. I like learning new things. And I needed something like a boot camp to have like that structure because I won't do it on my own time, even though I am curious and I love to learn. It's really hard for me to kind of like stay on top of like actually actively learning and like doing project work if I have like a full-time job to deal with, right? So I'm still very glad I did take the boot camp because I definitely learned a lot of new skills. I worked on really dope projects that I feel like forced me to be creative, you know? And I feel like it definitely helped me because in my current job, you know, they really value that experience. So I don't feel like the boot camp was for nothing. And I feel like product design is something that I'll always, you know, now have this tool in my tool belt, right? And I feel like with everything that you learn, you have to spend more time and you have to keep practicing. And I feel like, you know, the journey doesn't end with a boot camp. And I think that's so important. And there is like this common misconception, like for people who like start off in this journey that like, you know, I'll just take a boot camp, right? And I can just like build my portfolio and I'll graduate and I'll get a job right away. No. Like you can ask any person that has like, you know, tried to take a boot camp or tried to pivot into this field. Like it is hard to find a job, like I mentioned, right? So there needs to be a genuine curiosity here and like the drive to learn and the drive to kind of like keep practicing keep working on projects, keep participating in design challenges, work with other people on side projects, right? To really like build up your design skills, because you have to continuously learn, right? It's not just like a one and done thing. And like, it is a craft, and to hone in a craft, you gotta put the reps in. So the journey doesn't end with a boot camp. Like, it kind of starts like when you're done with a boot camp. Like, that's when the learning really starts, because you have to like really apply what you learned. You got to keep iterating on your portfolio, keep iterating on your past projects, work on new projects. So just be prepared for that, because I feel like a lot of people like have that like misconception kind of coming into this and trying to like learn and trying to pivot into this like field. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say that I did not cover in this video. I think I will leave it on this note. I don't think there's like one like right way or wrong way to do this. Like I said before, right? Like, you don't even need to take a boot camp to learn product design or UX research. Like, all the tools are out there on the internet for free. Really what it comes down to is, how hard are you willing to work? How much time are you willing to spend? How badly do you want it, right? And like, what is your end goal, right? Like, what is your end goal in all of this? And it's different for everyone. So think about those things, ruminate on those things, talk to other people who have been on similar paths, who have done this before already, and hopefully that gives you some clarity. Anyway, guys, I hope this video helped, and let me know if you have any other questions, if there's any other topics you'd like me to talk about. Leave them down below. I would love to make videos about them and help you guys. I'm here as a resource for you all, and yeah, and just sharing my journey, and hoping that it helps at least one person out there. But with that being said, I will see you guys very, very soon in another video. I hope you're all doing well and having a great day so far. I will see you next time.